Hello, my name is Jeremy Foley with PX3 Medical. We specialize in healthcare recruitment for healthcare providers, executives, and senior leadership with an emphasis on rural and underserved medicine. We are, of course, capable of helping anyone in the healthcare arena, but do have the tendency to work with smaller and or underserved clients. Today, we're going to ask and answer a very simple question. Is my job any good? Is the position I'm recruiting for attractive? And what does it take to be market competitive? So there are actually only 4 simple factors that we look at when we try to determine, is this position attractive in the market? What type of success we're going to have? And ultimately, is the position even workable from a professional standpoint, or whether you're trying to figure out, can we fill it on our own with internal resources? So the 4 main factors that we look at in recruiting to a position is this. Number 1 is location. Just like real estate, location, location, location. People want to be where people want to be. And so, I'm sorry to say this, if you're in a location that's not desirable, that's something that you have to deal with. We'll talk about later how to work within that disadvantage, but also be aware that you may be competing against a larger market than just your direct and local city or county. Number 2 is money. Now, obviously, we know that money's not everything in this world. However, people are looking for commensurate salary or compensation packages. So you have to figure out, is the package we're offering competitive with our location and other factors that we're about to mention? And also, what other things can we do besides, say, a pure base salary to sweeten the pot, if you will? Number 3 is schedule. Now, here in the middle of COVID times and even post-COVID, we're seeing more and more people look at schedules as a higher mark in how they judge and gauge a position. As a matter of fact, if I would have advised somebody a year ago before COVID, what are the 4 main factors? Schedule actually would have been number 4. And there's some people that may contend with me that schedule might even be the second most important thing. I would agree to disagree. Obviously, like most things in life, there's always exceptions to the rule. But we are seeing that schedule now, and basically the opportunity to work either remotely or in a reduced capacity, maybe if you could call it a 0.6 to 0.8 FTE type role, that's essentially a 3 to 4 day work week versus a 5-day work week, even with condensed hours, can be more attractive than the traditional and contemporary Monday through Friday 8 to 5 role. So regardless, when we're looking at location, the money piece, and the schedule, it all ties in together. Now the 4th one is this: scope and or workload. I apologize for my terrible handwriting. It's both a gift and a curse. My mom said I should have been a doctor, but here I am recruiting for physicians and the like. Anyways, so scope of practice, basically what are they doing? And the workload. So if you're a healthcare provider, obviously we're talking about the specialty, right? Are we talking about family practice? Are we talking about oncology? If it's a professional or executive we're talking about, we want to know what the workload is going to be like. If you're a COO, you want to know what you're managing, why you're managing it, and what that workload looks like. Are there existing projects that need to be finished? Are there new initiatives that need to be championed, if you will? Regardless, we're talking about what the role entails, both in the specific skill set as well as the overall capacity for additional work. So now, again, whatever the position is, you have to know where your strengths and weaknesses are on this chart. If you have a great location, if you are a prime location, and right now, again, here in hopefully the end times of COVID, we're talking about places like Florida, Texas, Arizona, where people are flocking en masse. these prime locations are going to beat out other locations, even if the position itself might be average or subpar in some situations. I've seen many times in my 14-year career that a superior location can beat out a lot of other factors. So now what do you do if you have a location that we know is maybe less desirable or flat out undesirable compared to the masses? Well, there's one thing we can look at immediately, which is the money. Now, often when we talk about either rural or underserved environments, we're talking about a double whammy here, okay? We're talking about a location that may be difficult to recruit to. It may be generally unattractive due to a lack of amenities, the location and accessibility to metropolitan amenities such as airports, shopping, schools, sporting events, etc. Or maybe just geographically is poorly placed for people that still want to have access to some amenities and not be completely off the grid, so to speak. So you take that poor location, and again, now you're going to mix it with a scope of practice or workload that is also maybe a little off the beaten path, so to speak. So when we look at critical access hospitals, when we look at rural health clinics, and even community health centers, both for primary care and behavioral health, we're talking about environments that they're not mainstream. People are not typically flocking to these environments compared to traditional counterparts or mainstream environments. And that is one of the number one challenges in recruiting to rural and underserved medicine. It's not just the location, but it's the environment, the scope of practice, what they're doing it, the patients, and the personnel that they have to deal with. So again, what do you do if you have a location and you have a setting or a position that is also a bit of a hurdle? And honestly, you have to look at your other two options in order to be attractive. I'm sorry, you're going to have to pay more if you're located in eastern Colorado than you would in, say, Denver, right? If we look at the Plains region of Colorado, great people, it's a beautiful location, but it's not as desirable as Denver or maybe even Colorado Springs. So what can you do? Well, you can try to pony up a little bit more money. Maybe you can offer a more flexible schedule or get creative with the schedule in order to suit the position's demands. And maybe even somebody that would not normally consider the role is now saying, well, hey, if you're going to offer me 410s, now I can make it work. Now, we can't change the desirability of the location, but you do have control over the money piece. You do have control over the schedule. And there's one more thing. So number 5 down here is going to be the X factor. Now, every position has an X factor, and what that means or what you can do to increase that is ultimately something you have to come up with on your own. Some examples that I've seen certain employers offer could be things like loan repayment. Now, that technically could be included in the money piece. Loan repayment or tuition reimbursement, programs that pay people for existing student loan debt, either through a federal or state-based program, or if it's something that you can sponsor or fund internally, can give you that X factor above and beyond your competitors, or make, say, a location that is less desirable now more desirable because the money and X factor overrules that deficiency, if you will. Some other things that we've seen become more prevalent in probably maybe the last 3 years, 4 years, 2017, I'd say, is housing. Now, we've seen this many years back for physicians, but now we're starting to see it for advanced practice providers, senior leadership, executives too, and that there's some type of housing allowance or assistance, if you will, that the employer is again sponsoring or funding themselves. So what that means is even offering as little as 30 or 60 days of housing could be that deal-breaking item you need to close a deal, to close that candidate, to get them to say yes. Again, I realize everyone's working with limited budgets and real estate options here, but you can look at maybe partnering with a local bed and breakfast, with a local hotel chain. Maybe you know somebody who is a real estate investor there locally or regionally that has some properties sitting vacant. You've got to get creative, and that's what X factors are. There's something a little different, a little unique, maybe even unorthodox in order to offer something that your other competitors are not. Things like childcare. You have to tap your candidates on the shoulder and ask them, what do you want from us? What would you like to see in the community? Or even just ask them straight up. We have these things squared away. What do you want as an X factor? What's it going to take for you to take this position and to say yes? So if you're working with a savvy firm or a consultant on these efforts, obviously they can advise you on where you need to be on these certain things. But if you're not working with a firm and you're trying to figure out, is my position any good? It's very simple to just hit the main 4 factors: location, salary, specialty, and schedule, and figure out, okay, where do we stack in the competition? Where do we stack in the market? And make your assessment there on how you need to move forward. Again, thank you for listening today. My name is Jeremy Foley with PX3 Medical. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about your own recruiting efforts, we are always happy to talk with you. We do provide free consultations. You do not have to engage with us. We'd be more than happy to advise you on the state of your current position. If you would like a free consultation, please reach out to us. Again, our representatives are more than happy to speak with you. You can find our information here below or reach out to us direct. Thank you again for your time. Take care.